I know God breathe on this.
The new brand for upcoming creators, the Facebook for creators.
The community of creatives.
That's what collective is to me, is kind of giving creatives a voice.
What's up, everybody? It is Kelsey Davis here, the host of the Every Human podcast, because at Collective, we believe that every human is a creator. And today, I am blessed to be meeting with Tiffany Tisdale-Braxton, who is a chef, author, community leader, about to be owner of a new spot popping up on the north side. So super excited to talk to her, learn about what her journey is from being a chef all the way through being an entrepreneur. Just see what that journey looks like, see how she supported, what she needs in order to be successful. So let's get into it. Yeah, I am here with the Tiffany Tisdale-Braxton.
Yes, you are.
Hey, and it's so amazing because, man, I've talked to you on so many different occasions and fronts about so many different things, and I've always just been inspired and curious about your creative journey. You know, so we don't get into all of it, but to start, before we even get into it, we on a new set. We're in a new space. We here at the 36 Degrees North Base Camp location here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where innovators, entrepreneurs collide, work. And I'm joined with Tiffany. So, who is Tiffany? For the folks who don't know, who is Tiffany?
So Tiffany is, or I am, I'm a mama. I'm a wife. Those are probably the more important titles that I hold.
Is that where you feel is that where you feel the most you, like in the pocket of you just how you identify to show up?
Yes. Yeah. For
From
sure.
a prioritization.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Family has always been just like the center of everything for me. My family's always super close knit.
Yeah.
So, like as a kid or as a little girl, like being a mama was like a goal.
Yeah.
So, or
okay.
being a wife and a
okay,
mom.
so wife, mom.
Yes.
How else do you identify?
I am a founder of a catering company called Tisdale23 Catering.
Oh.
I'm author of a cookbook. Yeah, that's kind of who I am.
You're a chef?
I'm a chef. I'm a chef. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Community member, I would say. Awesome. And I know that you talked about, family is really the epicenter of, where you spend that kind of priority, where you fill that cup. What relationship do you see even when it comes to like family and maybe the inspiration behind what you do at all? Because you come from a family of like doers.
Yeah, so family is definitely like the center of everything. How I even got started as a founder of a catering company, my grandmother always was in the culinary field. There was some time where I always felt just so connected to my family. We always lived away from family growing up. So when I came home, I was able to get in the kitchen with my grandmother, my cousins, and just like cook. And that was just like my sense of like home, or like my idea of being home was always like surrounded by food and just that's how I felt, I guess, the most loved. Yeah. And I always admired the way that like whatever my grandmother would make, like how it made my family feel. Like that was always like, dang, I want to do that. Like that's dope to me.
And talk to me kind of about your childhood, your upbringing, right? Because I know your whole your family's from Tulsa, right? But you weren't around in Tulsa. Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so my dad was in the NBA for 12 years. I was actually born, so all my siblings, we were all born in different cities that he played for. So I was born in Indiana.
Hey man, we got work now.
I was born in Indiana when he was playing for the Pacers, which who he got drafted to, I think in 83 or 4 or something like that. And then we lived in Sacramento, we lived in Phoenix. And then once he retired from basketball, we came to Tulsa with our family.
And how old were you at that time?
So when he retired, I was, I think, like 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so
what was it like for you to, even being a child, having the exposure, just the things that you saw, right? Like that stimulus, right? So it's like, because I already know most creatives that I know, creatives in their adult had some level of toying with that when they were kids.
Right.
What level of like inspiration or even just like effect do you think all that stimuli and, travel as a child kind of had on just your perspective of the world, even then when you came to Tulsa?
Right. So I think for me, like, seeing my dad have this job that I felt like wasn't a job, but it was just like something he liked to do, like with his friends. And I felt like everybody's dad did stuff they like to do with their
Like
friends.
go to the Olympics.
Yeah, like we going to the Olympics.
We
like,
hanging out with the homies. You know
like
what I'm saying?
this is what we do. And so I guess for me, it just always made me feel like you could do anything. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. Like you don't have to settle for anything you don't want to do, basically.
Yeah.
And I just always felt that like entrepreneurship or just like creative entrepreneurship was like within reach, because that's what I saw like the person that was the breadwinner in my home do for a living. Because even after basketball, he did music, which was his other passion. So,
and some argue he was equally as good, if not better, when it came to music than basketball. So what is it like too, even in that world, right? I think I talk to people often when it comes to like different generations of kind of behaviors, things that we're interested in. Oftentimes, if your parent maybe is naturally, you know, more so quieter or soft-spoken, maybe you're the opposite of that. Same thing we see in the context of work and career, right? I have two parents that have worked at the same job for over 30 years.
Right.
I grew up seeing that, appreciated the stability, right? Appreciated all of that, but I was like, man, I know that that's a reality that can be true. I think I want to try this more entrepreneurial, creative type thing, right?
Right.
For you come from being able to see a world, which is, I think, particularly important, being able, as a Black young girl, being able to see your Black parents striving towards being just whoever they want and having the freedom to say, you know what, I want to hoop. You know what, your grandmother, I want to cook. You know what, I want to play music, and finding a very high level of success to that, which I think maybe, especially for our communities, often it's maybe the sacrificial, oh, you know what, I'm just, instead of doing this thing that's my dream, I'm really just going to focus in and do this other thing because I want to be able to give opportunity to my kids that they didn't have. But it seems like for you, it's like growing up in this world of anything is possible and seeing those reference points in front of you.
So for me, like my dad, he like kind of drove that home for us too, though. Like he would tell us like, you know, what do you say? Do what you love so you'll never work a day in your life. Like he was real big on like setting goals, chasing your dreams. Like that was like what we were told at home. And I think it just came from.
Was that pressure?
It didn't feel like it to me. Yeah. It didn't feel like it. Yeah. I think that it so initially it was kind of hard for me to understand exactly because, you know, to see someone doing something and to put into practice yourself is two different things. So like I could see him like being a great basketball player, but in my mind it's like I met my daddy when he was successful. So like to actually put into
what that takes.
Yeah. So like I had no real concept of it at first. As an adult, like when I was a kid, it was just like, all right, daddy, whatever. But like as an adult, it was like, okay, wait, how did he become like great at this? Like I didn't see him struggle at all. Like when I met my daddy, he was in the NBA. Like so, yeah, I think it was always just like what was preached to us at home.
Yeah.
So.
And how do you and we'll get into like the specifics with your creative journey of like how you then take that, but even when you're looking at like your relationship now with your mom, right? What's your relationship between gathering information even on these things to where it's like, okay, now you're your own entrepreneur. You're looking at certain things that you saw, pros of what your father was doing, things of what your grandmother was doing, people in your family. But now you're having to kind of couple that with, oh wait, there are certain gaps of like, I don't really know what that back end looked like, right? Like where do you see yourself kind of leaning when it comes to information to kind of gather, okay, you have the vision, which is very clear, of the different pathways, things you could do, whether it's the cookbook, the catering stuff, but where do you then kind of gain that power from when it comes to that implementation, that execution of like, all right, cool, like I know that I could do anything, I know that I have this vision, but oh wait, like there's still a lot of things I don't know.
Right. So I think honestly for me, it's been my husband that kind of taught me like what that looks like, because my husband, he is an athlete. When I met him, he was playing football at OU, and it was kind of him just kind of showing me like, okay, you can have the vision, you can dream all day long, but he didn't come from any background like what I came from. Yeah. He had to work really hard, you know, and so it was really him like, hey, this is what it looks like to work hard. This is what work ethic is like, because, and not that my parents didn't have it, but you know how sometimes like it's so like I was saying, it was just so normal to see my dad like being my dad. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, my dad's a superstar. Like that's my daddy. Like you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think just like seeing my husband and him like kind of walking with me through that, like that's what really helped me to understand like how to accomplish these things.
And I think that's really man, for creators, like, and I think for humans, man, we're made to be in relationship, right? I do believe that we are all on our journey. I don't think that you need a relationship in order to get to where you're trying to go, but I think naturally we're relational beings, right? And so it's like, if we have, you know, I believe, you know, we obviously say every human is a creator. I think God's kind of given us all these gifts, these, you know, things that, you know, we're particularly good at. We can critically think, problem solve, and then use our own expertise to life. For you, that could be a menu, right? You know, for me, that could be a podcast, or it can be a software company or whatever, right? But I guess, how do you, I guess, think about like on your journey, what does it look like for you being a creative, for you thinking about, okay, you know, I'm a chef, I'm a this, I'm a that, relationships, right? Like that could be your business partner, man. That could be your team. That could be your spouse. That could be your kids, maybe. That could be your friends. How do you think about what's your relationship with relationships, right? When it comes to, because you got your priorities. It's like you very clearly said in the beginning, your mom, you're a wife, so you have those relationships that you're really pouring into. How do we maybe make this house a home? How do we pour into our kids so that we can make sure that they're who they want to be? But when it comes to your visions, right? And I know as your friend that you have a lot of them, right? What's that relationship of support look like then with your spouse, with your kids, your team? How do you think about navigating relationships as a creator?
You know, so navigating relationships as a creator, I don't know. I think so. For me, I kind of naturally have always been like super particular with people. Like, it's like I don't like the energy. Maybe because I'm an Aries. I don't know.
Be like, you don't necessarily have even the plan yet. You don't even maybe know the exact reasons, low level why or whatever. But you do have a certain level of like, but I'm gonna just trust that and then go over there.
I'm probably not gonna. And so I think for me, like relationships. I always am like so particular about also like people's character. So I think it's like when I see something in somebody, like I'm not gonna align myself in generally with nobody that I feel like is like, and I know that sounds so like, girl, give people grace, and I do, but like everything to me is like anybody connect to me is a reflection of me. So it's like I can't just align myself with anybody. So I guess like with my relationships, it's like, I don't know. I guess like.
Did you always know that? Like, is that something you were taught? Is that something you learned by experience?
Really, it's so funny because like my parents say this to me all the time, or as you say, they'd be like, as a baby, like you would be like sizing people up, like nah, like nah, they ain't. And so I don't know. I don't really know. It's just like kind of a natural thing for me. And I always say like for me, it's like your character takes you so much further than your talent. So for me, like I don't even have to have the most talented person in the room. Like if your character is there, you can grow, you can learn.
Yeah, but then when you got that talent too, and I feel like that's you, man. Like, you know, I've been a vegan now for a year. You know this, but I'm a person of taste. You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, especially if the work that I do, I always love when I can enjoy a creator in the pocket of being a creator and being able to just like experience the fruit of what they're creating and just being able to appreciate it, or being critical, not based on just the bare thing, but based on what I know is being created, based on what I know the creator was trying to achieve, right? And for you, man, what I see when it comes to the catering, I know the book that you've done, I know kind of some of the visions that you're thinking about in the future. Talk to me about, like, you know, you mentioned your creator, we talked about relationships, you being a wife, mom, but talk to me about, like, on the side of being a chef. Let's start there, right? Because I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for me, with being a freelancer, I started being a videographer, started seeing issues with like how creators brands connect. I was like, okay, cool, we need to maybe create a product that helps the space of allowing creators to brands connect. I feel like that's you with like catering, right? You started being a chef, making your own stuff, kind of scaled into a almost agency model of like catering, right? So who needs my services at scale? You were able to then take this doctrine, this philosophy, create a cookbook, right? Where you're actually giving the information to the people by creating recipes, but also introducing yourself to them as a
Right.
chef, right?
Right.
Like, how have you navigated, right? Like, was it just, oh, I was making meals with my family, realized I was the shit, and then was like, yo, I want this to go to the community? Like, how do you go from that scale, that 0 to 100 of starting as a chef, but now literally like nourishing the community?
So I think it's like I always kind of had a vision of like what I wanted to become, and so I think everything that I put out is just like a portion of that vision. So like from I guess ground zero, you know, not really even knowing what I wanted to do or how I was gonna do it. I guess just kind of like trying to educate myself, trying to get around people that can teach me and show me like how to become just like really are as good as possible at my craft, and just kind of building on those skills and like, okay, now I feel ready to do, you know, this cookbook, or now I feel ready to launch this catering company. Now I will say, like, I'm not always right about like the timing of it, because when I launched my catering company, I had no idea what I was doing. I like played myself out a bunch of money, like didn't know what I was doing, but it just kind of was. I mean, I think, and that's just like entrepreneurship in general too. Like you ain't gonna always, most of the time, you ain't gonna just get it right the first time.
I tell people it's like, and I think creators have the biggest issues with what I've learned by having a tech company. It's like, by the time you release the product, you should already be cringy about it.
Yeah.
Like you should already know, because you've already been building towards these next 3 deployments that you know that you're gonna push out.
Right.
So it's like,
right.
by the time you're releasing that one thing, it's like, man, I already know I got 3 things in the can that's gonna slap this.
Yes,
Right. But being
yes.
able to still get that to the people, because they
Yes.
still have needs.
Right.
And you still have something that you can give them.
Right,
Maybe it's
right.
not to the scale of what you know you could do.
Right,
But still
right.
being able to have that process of just having an idea, putting it out, allowing the people to engage with it, give feedback,
Right.
and do that again could be anxiety inducing, to say the least.
Yes, very much so. I think yeah, I don't know. I think like as I've put out different projects, like you said, like with my cookbook, I almost like didn't put it out because I was like, okay, this feel like I already have a better idea, and I think we get in our heads so much because we want to be like perfectionists, and we don't want to put out the first iteration of like this idea that we have. And but then like I got this feedback of like, oh my god, like I needed this, and you looking like y'all need this, like like well shoot, I'm about to kill y'all with this next thing. So
and how did you know that a cookbook, like going from you had the catering business before you did it, so how did you know? How did you perceive it was time to actually transition into a cookbook?
Well, so really what happened with that was like COVID really kind of kicked it off, because so many people were like, bro, like I've never cooked this many meals in my life. Like I need help. People were like inboxing me, hitting me up, like, can you, or I'll like cook something on live or something. They'll be like, can you give me this recipe, or can you show me how to make this, or can you send me a
And
video?
how did you feel at that time as a creator? It's also a pandemic for you, right? Which I think sometimes as founders, people don't recognize it. Like you too were in a pandemic.
Yes.
But you have your eyes open in terms of like what people need. Was that surprising to you that people started coming to you for that specifically? Did you feel like, no, that's what you were actually trying to put yourself out for anyway? So it was like perfect?
It kind of, okay, so I would say this. What they were asking, like how to make, was surprising, because in my head I always overthought it. I always felt like it has to be like just
Some
like
shit we ain't never
so
seen before.
complicated. And they were like, bro, I want to learn how to fry chicken, like, and I'm like, oh, okay, y'all know how to fry chicken?
A lot of times it's about accessibility. Like how do we just get the basic foundational information
Yes.
to people? Yeah,
no, for real. And that's what I learned. I mean, I was making like macaroni and cheese or just like whatever, and they're like, this is like, I don't know how to make this. I use your cookbook for every holiday now. Like, y'all know how to make macaroni and cheese and sweet potatoes. But you know, and I guess I was always downplaying like my expertise. I always would be like, I mean, everybody know how to make this.
And we do that as creators, right? Like we think, but it's like, that's why I want people to have to understand. The first question I ask is like, who are you? And it could be deeper than the overt services that you think you have to provide.
Right.
So, oh, I'm a chef, but it's like, no, I have access to knowing, having access to the systems,
right,
the process of understanding, okay, how should I as an individual, who can create a user experience for me that makes it easy to just know, okay, all I got to do is X, Y, and Z. I do this on Mondays. I do this at this time. And then I'm going to be able to make 3 meals out of that. Or I'm going to be able to, but some of that information is super hard. So it's like sometimes, and this is the thing with business tech, even like when you could simplify, right? Like sometimes we think that in order to be valuable, we have to be super complex and stuff. But often when you're valuable, you make it super simple and then accessible to the masses.
Right.
And that's then what creates value for like a large group of people.
Yep, I'm definitely learning that, like, when you can create value and make people feel a certain way, like, man, that just made, they created so much ease in my life, or, that just made things just like, so much more, I just understand how to do it now, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that is, like, the key. Because I think before it was like, I got to show people how technical I can be, or like, and it's like, girl, we can't even relate to that.
Yeah.
I remember, like, when I used to first, like, make menus for people, I would, like, just give all these like super technical like names to everything. And I remember it was actually Natalie. I wrote her a menu for something. She was like, TT, I don't know what like most of this is. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And it's like people just want it to be simple. They want it to be good.
Yeah.
They want to be able to access it. And that's it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you get in your head so much because you're like, but I can do all this. And it's like, but people that's not in that, like, that doesn't resonate with them. It's like, girl, I don't know what I mean.
So even to that point, I know one of the big visions, ideas that you have really has to do with creating nourishment from the north side of Tulsa. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, North Tulsa, like, at one point in time, 100 years ago, was the highest level of wealth, for Black people in the country.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now it's one of the largest and densest food deserts, internet connectivity deserts. What does it mean for you to be somebody that's, from this community for multiple generations, basically using agriculture and food as a way to kind of rebuild Black Wall Street, like, and Greenwood and Tulsa as a whole community? Like, talk to me kind of about how you go from, okay, yes, you're interested in being a chef, you're interested in catering, and from a standpoint of like excellence, but then what relationship does that then have with the community, right? And where you see kind of service lending to, okay, how could we take these skills and nourish a whole community?
So, for, I guess, the first thing to answer the first question, I think for me what it means is that, so as you said, like, my family had a store in Black Wall Street, like a confectionery store. So it's kind of like a convenience store. And so I remember in 7th grade, my grandmother, or we had like a
So
project.
this is like 3 generations ago.
Yeah, it's my great grandparents.
Yeah.
So we had a project at school and I had to interview her, like, and for whatever reason, like, I had no idea that like people didn't talk about it, like, after, and they were actually a part of like the rebuild of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And
so that was that like 20s, 30s era.
Yes. And it's like when they kind of started coming, so it was probably like more like the 30s, 40s.
30s, 40s,
Yeah. And so anyway, so seeing that, it just kind of really made me like, man, like, I was so interested. I was like 6th grade, but I remember just being like, dang, this is like so cool. And I think for me, it's like to be able to like kind of continue that, because I just know like that I guess at the point that the rebuild happened, like, I know it was, I mean, I guess it wasn't easy initially, but I knew it really wasn't easy for them to like trust their idea and trust that they could like do this, or, and so for me, it's just almost like.
And educate the people on why maybe that was the case, in terms of like why maybe people, even though maybe you see this opportunity in front of you, people are saying, hey, now's the time, why maybe you, based on the trauma in that time, didn't maybe feel comfortable creating.
Well, for one, obviously seeing what happened with the massacre, it's like, are they gonna do it again? Like, you can't trust people. I mean, they couldn't even get loans to like, or insurance to like recover their businesses. Like, they would change laws like at the drop of a dime to make it to where they couldn't do anything to rebuild their businesses. So I think that it took a level of obviously like bravery and just like confidence in what you're providing to do that. And then also it's just like, a lot of them didn't come from like wealth, so even like sourcing funding for something like that, it's like, where do we, I mean, I don't even know what they did to do it, to be honest. Like, I know that my family also is Native, so I'm thinking that may have something to do with like some, acquiring the land and the buildings or whatever. But yeah, I think it takes definitely a strong person, or somebody that has a lot of who's just brave enough to put their stuff out there and open a business, especially back then. So, yeah. So what was the second question?
So how do you so taking all of that historical context, what does that mean for you now? I know that you've been ideating on some cool stuff that may be popping up on the north side.
So now I am kind of ideating, like you said, around the concept to have like my own kind of like incubator, I guess you would call it. Not really, because I guess I won't be like teaching people how to do that.
Yeah, but a space where people can have the space and time to bring their
so a kitchen space where people can come and pop up and test out their concepts and, you know, hopefully go on and have their own brick and mortars or whatever they want, you know, food trucks or whatever. And I want it to be around culinary, obviously, because that's my field and what I'm most interested in. But I think that just to provide this space for other culinary talents in our community to share their talents in a licensed space, in a space that, you know, they can actually run it. Because right now, there are spaces available, but I think that it's like, I want a space that's built with us in mind.
And talk about that even infrastructurally, right? Because I understand, like, even when it comes to that space, like, let's say I know multiple Black owned businesses, like these pop-ups that are here, different chefs that are here. But talk about infrastructurally what's literally needed in order to go from, you know, chef to even restaurant, right? In terms of some of those infrastructural issues. Because I think that can even open up for the people why it's not easy or why something like that even is so valuable. It's like, because if you just create the infrastructure, people can come in and out as they need.
Yeah, well, a lot of people in our community, and this was true for me too, you just kind of, I mean, so cooking most of the time is like, since I can remember, it's always been like, oh yeah, you got the lady that make the plates down the street or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, you don't have an idea about like licensing or like having this space where, you know, because I actually heard a story recently, it kind of made me sad, but this lady who was like selling like these vegan plates or whatever, but like she kept getting people calling, you know, the health department on her because they were like, you know, you can't be doing this. And nobody was sick or anything like that, but they were like just doing that to her. And I mean, it is against the law. Yeah. But it's like in our communities, that's always been a thing. Like, oh yeah, so-and-so's mama make plates or, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So I think just to give people opportunity, it's an opportunity that I had, you know, here through an incubator program that I went through that I don't feel like it's been a super inclusive conversation for everybody, and I like recognize my privilege, and so I want to be able to through that to open these doors opportunity for people to work in licensed spaces, for people to have the space to say like, okay, let me test this concept before I go in, like put all this money into this building or whatever, and then I fail because I had no idea what I was doing, or like I get into it and I realize I don't really like making cookies, or I don't really like making this for real, like on this level or on this scale. But it gives them the opportunity to at least see and kind of eliminate some of that risk factor with going in and just like, I'm gonna get a loan, I'm gonna open this business, and then 2 months later we out of business.
Yeah, facts. And what relationship has you think living in Tulsa and being in Tulsa specifically had on your creative journey?
So for
like, what is it about Tulsa that makes this where you want to be?
Well, okay, so for me, I would just say I love the like energy that or the direction that Tulsa is going in now. Growing up here and seeing what it is now is night and day. Growing up here, there wasn't a bunch of resources for entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs. I can't even talk. Yeah. Entrepreneurs of color.
Yeah.
And so, I, you know, seeing, you know, the direction that things are going, it's like, I definitely want to be a part of that. Like, I love the idea that, you know, so many people are invested in the Black Wall Street story, and so many people want to see like that be revitalized. And so for me, it's like just knowing, you know, that story since I was a little girl, and just seeing like the efforts that are like now being put into that. It's just like, dang, I need to be a part of that. Like, I mean, you know, even if I don't decide that I want to live in Tulsa forever, I need to have, you know, a part
just
of
access to that type of life and community.
Yes, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
So real quick, before we do our last question, talk to me just a little bit about, for you, even as a creator, kind of alluding to that last point, like, what are the things that you need just in your life, holistically, environmentally, spiritually, like, in order to be like, yeah, I'm set this week. Or like, yeah, I can create, I'm in a space where I have the time, the energy, the space to like think, to cook, to write, to do whatever it is that you need to do. Like, what are those variables for you?
So spiritually, I'll say for me, like, this is so random, but like, I listen to sermons every single day. Okay. It's so churchy, I know. Yeah. But like Bishop Jakes, Sarah Jakes, I listen to what is Keon Anderson, I think? Henderson. I listen to a bunch of different ministers or whatever. So like, that just kind of grounds me. I'm such a like kind of like a self-help person. Like, I love reading pretty much like faith-based self-help type books to kind of just get me in that right mindset. And just also like I love autobiographies. So like hearing other people, kind of touches on a question you asked me earlier about like where I get, I guess, motivated from or whatever. But like hearing other people's story of like triumph, like in entrepreneurship or just in life or in motherhood or just whatever, it's like, I can do this. Like, okay. Yeah. Or like seeing like my favorite singer, like, oh, so she was just, she regular. Like just grinded real hard and like the Lord blessed her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, you know, what I need in terms of like spiritual, for, I guess also like I really need like my support from my husband. I just need to know that I have like that like soft landing place. That's like super important for me to like create and feel comfortable and feel free in that. I pull so much inspiration from my kids because they're like hilarious and like it's just always fun to like include them in my work.
Your kids are hilarious.
Girl, they're a mess. My 7-year-old, Lord bless him. So I pull so much inspiration from them, and so they really help me with creating. And then I don't know. I just need. So I guess I'll say this: whenever I was working in a corporate setting, like I couldn't like. It was so hard for me to do like the working a corporate job and having like a career. Like if I'm like super stressed out from something I like hate in real life, because like corporate is like I cannot stand it. And not that this doesn't serve a purpose, but Lord God knows.
Not for you.
Yeah. So anyways, I just need like ease, like in order, and just like all my little stuff. And it never always is all at ease, but I just need that like, okay, I'm not stressed out. I can just kind of be to myself and get my, you know, I also prioritize working out too, to kind of clear my mind. Like getting up
Shout
and
out
walking.
to Foosbox.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, just getting up, even if I get up and just walk, if I can't make it to the gym or whatever, like that, all those things like help me get in that creative space of like, all right, cool, let's go. So
I love that. And if you had a message to give to every human, what would your message be?
A message to every human.
Yeah.
Kelsey, you didn't tell me you were going to ask me this. I don't know. I didn't get to think about it. Is this like live? Y'all cut?
Man.
Okay, let me think.
What's in your heart? What you feel like the people?
Every human.
If as many people can get this message as possible, what would you want to be able to say to them? What do you want them to be able to have? What wisdom you want to impart?
I like am drawing a blank. That sucks. Because normally I don't do that. I'm like, oh, this is what I need to tell y'all.
It's good.
For every human, God validated you when he made you. I think that a lot of times, especially as a creator, you are always looking for like, it is good, like what you did was good, or you need that pat on the back or that extra. But I think that like everything that you need is already in you. You don't have to always look outwardly for that validation. Kind of like the little cliche, like the secret sauce is you. Like it is though, like because can't nobody like have your exact touch. Can't nobody do it exactly like you, and you don't have to like. I don't know. I used to look, for me, like especially being younger, like I would look to like, okay, like I need to be able to like proceed. I don't know, like I guess success looked a certain way in my mind, so I felt like I needed to like be a certain way or like hang out with a certain group of people or whatever, and like. As I've continued to grow, it's like, no, like I'm cool like how I am. Like I don't need, and like y'all catch the wave or y'all won't. Like so that's what it is. So
and that's what makes you as a creator.
Yes. I think that would be my message. Like just lean into that. Lean into who you are. If you weird, because we all weird, or you whatever, like just lean into that. Like because that's gonna make you like special. Like we want her. We want that thing she got. You know what I mean? So
exactly. I love it. This is the Every Human Podcast here with Tiffany Tisdale-Braxton. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
Awesome.
All right. Peace.
Woo!